Xia Hao crossed a different world, fused the Jade Seal of the country, and became the leader of a county's rebel army. What should he do in the face of the vast world of competing for hegemony, 100 schools of thought, and the struggle of thousands of ethnic groups? A. Gathering talents, strengthening the army, striving for world dominance, establishing the supreme movement dynasty. B. Searching for the immortal gate, seeking longevity, only I am alone, exploring the great way of heaven and earth. C. Accompanying Taoist couples, traveling in the mortal world, having many children and blessings, creating an immortal clan. Xia Hao, who had been a bull and a horse in his past life and only wanted to enjoy life, felt that even hesitating for a second was his fault. I chose C. 10,000 years later, Xia Hao stood tall at the top of the starry sky, with thousands of tribes under his feet in submission, and said with a faint smile, "Who is the peak at the end of the immortal road? When I see this emperor's way, it becomes empty." So, that's not a multiple-choice question. Note: this book starts with the establishment of the mortal dynasty and the establishment of the Chongqing immortal kingdom that spans across the heavens and all realms. PS2. The setting is novel, the background is super grand, and the character is guaranteed. Novel keyword. Make you rebel, establish the immortal kingdom of immortality. No pop-ups, causing you to rebel, establishing the immortal kingdom of eternal life. Download the complete TXT collection, causing you to rebel and establish the eternal immortal kingdom. Latest chapter reading. Chapter 1. Begins with the fusion of the Imperial Jade Seal, and I am actually the leader of the rebels. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 1 begins with the fusion of the Imperial Jade Seal, where I am actually the leader of the rebel army. In the 13th year of the Qianyuan reign, there was a severe drought in the 6 provinces of Jin, which lasted for 3 months. White bones exposed in the wilderness, thousands of miles without rooster crowing. EZ devours each other, and the world is like purgatory. In the 6 states, dozens of rebel forces rose up. Liangzhou, Jincheng County, Yuzhong County. On the dilapidated city wall, where blood had not dried up, soldiers with yellow scarves and ragged clothes were patrolling and on duty, occasionally sighing. Our brothers fought to the death in a bloody battle. Although we invaded Yuzhong County, we suffered heavy casualties. Out of 3,000 brothers, only 800 remained, and everyone was injured. Old Wang, how is Brother Xia's injury? Do you have any news? Not really, the doctors in Yuzhong City are all quacks. General Xia led the way and climbed the city in armor, but was seriously injured. Even if he was a 7th-grade warrior, he might not be able to escape this calamity. Ah, the world is difficult. We are like ants, just trying to survive. Why is it so difficult? The former Lord's mansion, at this moment, it has been occupied by the rebels. On the bed, a middle-aged man with a pale and lifeless face and a hoarse and weak voice. Brothers, I am hopeless and will soon follow other brothers who died in battle. My soul will enter the underworld of the underworld and I cannot take you to break through. Brother Xia, if you go, how can our brothers live alone? Beside the bed, many rugged military men burst into tears. Not afraid of swords, mountains, and seas, but afraid of parting in the world. Yuzhong County has a small city with fewer than 1,000 households. After capturing the city, they also searched the entire city. It is difficult for the people in the city to be united with us, and there are 3 major families hidden in the shadows, eyeing us with great determination. If I die, cough cough cough. The man on the bed, bleeding from the corners of his mouth, was on the verge of death, and his voice became even fainter. After I die, my brothers should tidy up and run for their lives. Every day we can live is a day. Just, how, I can't rest assured. Brother Xia, don't say anything more. If you really leave us, we old brothers will definitely support the young master and become the leader. Let the young master lead us 800 brothers to fight a magnificent world. Brother Xia, it was you who saved our brothers' lives. Otherwise, we would have become lonely ghosts on the roadside. I have lived long enough, and when I kill a few more bandits, I will follow Big Brother. Amidst the noisy voices, there was a robust and handsome young man with a war knife hanging from his waist, his gaze bewildered and confused, and two memories mixed and interwoven in his mind. Who am I, and where is this place? Why does it have an additional unfamiliar memory? Xia Hao's heart was filled with doubts, and his face was uncertain. Did I travel through time? In thought, suddenly, a faint voice woke him up. Hao, come here. Xia Hao looked at the man on the bed, both unfamiliar and familiar. According to his original memory, the man was his father, the leader of the rebel army, Xia Wuwei. Carefully approaching the bedside, he spoke, Dad. Xia Wuwei's calloused right hand grabbed Xia Hao and let out a breath, panting heavily. Hao, you have exceptional talent in martial arts, second only to me in strength. After I leave, you must live with your other brothers and promise me. Dad, I promise you. Xia Hao forced out a tear. Brothers, I'll leave Hao to you. You must work hard to survive. Xia Wuwei struggled, exhausted his last bit of strength. And holding on to Xia Hao's hand, weakly drooping. Coming from an unsuccessful background, already lost in the underworld, unable to close one's eyes in death. Dad. Xia Hao trembled and placed his hand on Xia Wuwei's nose, no longer breathing. General Xia, have a good journey. Brother Xia. Rest in peace on the way. The soldiers present also shed tears and their voices were desolate and sorrowful. For a moment, the entire city lord's mansion was filled with cries of mourning, which then spread throughout the entire Yuzhong County. Mad, I actually crossed the border. At the beginning, I was a rebel young master in a county. My father just died and I am about to face the Imperial army to suppress the rebellion. Lying in bed, surprisingly, it is still a world where force is paramount. Daozu is here, you're playing with me. After fusing his original memories, Xia Hao felt like the sky was spinning, the earth was spinning, his neck was chilly, and he was ready to move at any time. My shoulder was lightly tapped, and a voice came from my ear. Young master, you are the only son of the general. You must pick yourself up and lead 800 brothers to kill the bandit army and avenge the general. Xia Hao looked up and saw that there were multiple scars on the dark face of the opponent, which were caused by sharp weapons. That was the merit of the warrior. In his heart, he thought to himself, the 800 peasant uprising army, who doesn't even know a few big characters, is rebelling in the Gaowu world a dead end. With this thought in his heart, Xia Hao naturally wouldn't reveal it, but instead asked solemnly. Uncle, my father died in battle, and the situation of the rebel army is in danger. In less than half a month, there will be an official army attacking. What should we do? The military Han present, upon hearing Xia Hao's inquiry, remained silent. Their uprising lasted only 2 months, and the reason why they were able to capture Yuzhong County was entirely due to Xia Wuwei's own bravery and divine power. Before the uprising, most of them were farmers for generations, and because they couldn't survive, they killed officials and rebelled. Young master, if the bandits' army comes to kill us, then we will fight against them. If we die, we will face the sky and not die for thousands of years. The black cripple is right, it's just a matter of dying. We can't survive, and we have to hold them on until we die. Listening to their answers, Xia Hao sighed again in his heart. I don't expect them to be reliable. They are all genuine farmers, and besides risking their lives, there is nothing worthy of praise. If we wait for the imperial court to suppress the rebellion and the army to come to the city, we will inevitably be at risk of collapse and collapse. Xia Hao furrowed his brows. As the young master, he became the nominal new leader after his original father's death. How to find a way out still requires him to think carefully. Looking at the people, he comforted them and said, there is no way out of heaven. Uncle, let my father settle down first. The young master is right. Let the general settle down first. The general died in battle and must be allowed to leave in glory. The people in the city must wear mourning for Brother Xia. I'm going to find a good wood to make a coffin. The cripple, you go notify the other brothers. Iron Egg, you go door, notify the people in the city. The Scar Man looked at the others and arranged the task. Xia Hao's eyes flickered and he didn't say much. Quickly, the entire rebel army moved and prepared to prepare for the aftermath of Xia Wuwei. Only Xia Hao remained, staring blankly at Xia Wuwei's body with complex thoughts. I went back to my hometown to plant a dish, dug up an antique, and before I could hand it over to the country and harvest 500 yuan and a banner, I was suddenly struck by thunder. It's really unlucky to cross this troubled world. Damn it, how can I go back, my beautiful wife, lovely daughter, and the browser search history that hasn't been deleted? After fusing memories and knowing his own situation, Xia Hao felt extremely anxious in his heart. According to the regulations on the management of travelers across the heavens and realms, Xia Hao cautiously shouted, "A must-have for travelers, system, come out." There was no response. Grandpa. Fairy. Despite various tests, there was still no response, and Xia Hao felt a bit flustered in his heart. Sun Mud Horse, the traveler has no golden finger. Instead of waiting for the Imperial Army to cut off his head for military merit, it's better to make a decision on his own. Xia Hao placed his sword horizontally around his neck, wanting to kill him. I often try to return to the modern world, but lack courage, can't you take it down? Just as Xia Hao was feeling hopeless, his head suddenly went dizzy and his body couldn't support him. With a loud bang, he fell to the ground unconscious. Where is this? Xia Hao scrutinized his surroundings cautiously, it was a dull and devoid of anything. Suddenly, a faint golden light came from the dark space, attracting his attention. Approaching, Xia Hao saw that it was an ancient seal, and Jin Guang had just uploaded it. This seal is somewhat familiar to him. After a closer look, it was the seal he dug out when he went back to his hometown to plant vegetables during the May Day holiday. Xia Hao couldn't help but touch this ancient seal, and his consciousness was instantly engulfed in it. A vast and unfathomable ancient aura merged into his consciousness not long after. Xia Hao leisurely woke up and looked at the seal, his expression containing extreme excitement. Taking orders from heaven, we will live forever. It turns out that this ancient seal is actually the most precious treasure in the history of China, the Imperial Jade Seal, cast by the first emperor. So, when I dig up the Imperial Jade Seal, I will be struck by thunder in the clear sky, die in despair, and travel here. The National Jade Seal can condense the energy of heaven and earth, and turn it into cultivation materials, Xia Hao murmured to himself. Suddenly, a light curtain projected from the Jade Seal of Chuangua, and a line of characters appeared on it. Name: Xia Hao, Qi Yun. 1. Realm. Peeling, progress. 90%. Plus, practice. Flame blade technique, beginners and beginners practice, plus, divine power. Manifestation of fate. Xia Hao looked at the traditional Chinese characters on the screen of light and quickly understood that these were his body data. The original body is the 8th grade, grinding skin, realm, second only to the 7th grade, easy muscle, realm of the original body's father Xia Wuwei among the 800 righteous soldiers. The flame knife technique is also an entry-level martial art passed down from the Xia family. Qi luck, should it be my own Qi luck? What does 1 point of Qi luck represent and what is its purpose? Is the divine power of destiny manifestation an accessory to the Imperial Jade Seal of the country? Xia Hao observed for a while, kept trying, and soon made a new discovery. I seem to be able to control the number in the Qi Yun column. Is it for adding points? In the realm of grinding skin and after the flame blade technique, there is a plus sign, which represents the ability to choose to improve. Can they all choose to improve? Xia Hao's eyes were bright and he looked at, grinding the skin, and, blazing knife technique, hesitating in his heart how to choose. According to the original memory, there is a martial arts existence in this world. A strong person can withstand 10,000 enemies without any defense, with copper skin and iron bones, making them invincible. The 9th grade is the nourishing realm, which concentrates internal breath, nourishes the body, and generates tremendous strength. It is an ordinary 3 to 5 people, not an opponent. 8th grade, known as the skin-grinding realm, sharpens the skin, doubles defense and strength, and can be easily defeated in battle. 7th grade, known as the Yi realm, trains muscles and meridians, has a long breath, and can be the enemy of 100 people. In a county, it is already rare. 6th grade, known as the bone-forging realm, it is used to refine bones and has infinite strength. It can defeat 1,000 enemies and claim power in a county. As for the realm above the 6th grade, it is not in my original memory. Improving swordsmanship is not the top priority. If we can further elevate our martial arts realm to the 7th level of easy muscle, perhaps we can solve the current crisis. Even if you can't win, you can still run faster. Xia Hao immediately made a decision. With a movement of thought, a little energy value disappears. A cool breath emerged in my mind, blending into the meridians of my body. The intricate and complex muscles and veins in my body became more condensed, resilient, and robust. Just like drinking a bowl of hot soup, my whole body is warm and full of strength, and there is a significant improvement when it comes to grinding the skin. Looking at the light screen again, there are indeed new changes. Qi Yun. 0, Realm. Yi Gene, Progress. 10%, the power of Qi has disappeared, and my strength has also reached the 7th level of easy muscle, but it is only a beginner and has not yet been fully achieved. Xia Hao observed for a while again and had a rough understanding of the cheat, leaving only the supernatural power of destiny manifestation that he had not yet attempted. How should I leave here? Thinking about the external situation, gathering consciousness, and thinking in his heart, he left this space in an instant. Opening his eyes again, Xia Hao looked at the familiar environment with a smile on his face. My mind moved again and entered that dim space. Let's call this space the Jade Seal space. Xia Hao's consciousness retreated, stood up, clenched his fists, and a majestic force ran through his body, as if there was infinite power. With the golden finger of the Imperial Jade Seal, I can also say, suddenly, a madman sharpens his sword at night, and the Emperor's star flutters and sparkles high. Jin lost its deer, and the world chased it together. The Emperor takes turns and comes to my house next year. Xia Hao thought happily and was about to acquire weapons to test his own strength. Suddenly, a middle-aged soldier broke in, looking anxious and shouting. Young master, it's not good, something bad has happened. This book is about the flow of fortune, the struggle for supremacy in the immortal kingdom, and the addition of a little bit of luck. Welcome everyone to collect, give tips, and recommend. End of this chapter. Chapter 2. When dealing with enemies, we should eliminate grassroots. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 2. When dealing with enemies, we should eliminate grassroots. Xia Hao was taken aback and quickly asked, Uncle Zhang, what happened? A middle-aged soldier named Zhang San was originally a butcher in the countryside. Follow Xia Wuwei in rebellion. In Xia Hao's memory, he had an impression that his battles were particularly fierce, reaching the 8th grade, grinding skin, realm. Young master, when the black cripple entered the Wu family in the city to search for good wood to make coffins, he found that they had already planned to ambush more than 10 servants. Under the chaos of knives, the black cripple and several brothers had already been killed. After the death of brother Xia, the other 2 major families in the city, the Wei and Zhou families, also mobilized their hidden forces. The 3 families poured out their forces. They had bows and crossbows, and 6 8th grade warriors were stationed. The brothers were struggling to resist. Young master, what should we do now? We're all waiting for you to decide. Upon hearing this bad news, Xia Hao's heart and mind were shaken. If this situation is not handled properly, the rebel army will be completely wiped out. He needs to make a decision whether to fight or retreat. By the way, the city gate is still in our hands, isn't it? Xia Hao quickly asked. If the gate of Yuzhong city is still under control, then it is easy to retreat and stay. The city gate is still in our hands for the time being, but the enemy has launched a surprise attack and has been repelled by our brothers, Zhang San replied. Lead the way, I'll go to the battlefield with you. Xia Hao made up his mind. Yuzhong city cannot be easily abandoned. Immediately he picked up a broad-handled steel knife, put on armor, and his gaze was cold. Young master, you must be careful. The opponent has 6 8th grade martial artists sitting there, with strong strength. Zhang San reminded with concern. Among the 800 righteous soldiers, except for Xia Hao, there are currently only 4 8th grade warriors. Uncle Zhang, I'm confident. Xia Hao arrived at the courtyard of the Lord's mansion, jumped up, and rode a brown-yellow warhorse. After capturing Yuzhong County, the entire rebel army only obtained 32 horses, all of which were distributed to the rebel soldiers by Xia Wuwei. He fought bravely and excelled in battle, and was also awarded a top-notch war horse. Zhang San also rode his horse and ran quickly, leading the way ahead. 2 people in front and 1 behind. In no time, we arrived at the battlefield where the rebels fought against the big clans in the city. Yuzhong Street is 10 zhang wide and 100 zhang long. The 2 sides engaged in battle, with troops intertwined, blood staining the dry road, and people constantly falling. There are both rebel soldiers and members of the 3 major families. Although the rebel army has more than 800 people, they need to guard the city gates, government warehouses, and granaries. There is not much advantage in terms of numbers, with only about 400 people fighting against the enemy. And the opponent had 6 8th grade warriors, equipped with excellent equipment, and the rebel army was steadily retreating. The leader is here, brothers. Kill these aristocratic families. When the rebel army saw Xia Hao's arrival, their expression was uplifted and they let out a loud roar, greatly boosting their morale. Xia Hao's strength is second only to Xia Wuwei among the 800 righteous soldiers. He fought bravely and achieved remarkable results, naturally earning the respect of the rebel soldiers. If Xia Hao had joined, he would not have been so passive. Xia Hao looked at the brutal battlefield, feeling a sense of shock and a hint of fear in his heart. This was not a scene from movies and TV shows in his past life. He saw with his own eyes the head of the rebel army, which had been cut off by the enemy laughing wildly, blood splattered, and his life was like a blade of grass. This is chaotic times, this is war, in order to survive, I have no other choice. Xia Hao whispered to himself, his gaze gradually becoming firm. The instinct of his body made him dismount, wielding a war knife, and charge towards the battlefield. Seeing Xia Hao join the battlefield, the morale of the rebel army became even more boiling. Crazy shouting, fearlessly waving the weapons in their hands to kill the enemy, a burly member of the other party appeared in front of Xia Hao, wielding a spear and stabbing at him. At that moment, Xia Hao seemed to see the fierce and resentful gaze of Pang Shang on the other side, wanting to kill him. Kill! 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 Xia Hao was full of fighting spirit, and on one side of his body, a spear ran over his chest. He caught the gap, wielding a sword and slashed fiercely, as fast as the wind, containing immense physical strength. He directly slashed the opponent's waist horizontally, splitting his body in 2. Blood splattered everywhere, dripping onto Xia Hao's face and leather armor. With a single blow to the owl's head, the rebels cheered. Is this the feeling of killing? It seems, and it's not that scary either. Xia Hao's first murder, I don't know if he was influenced by his original memory, but it doesn't feel that special. Born in a chaotic world, either you kill me or I kill you. What can I do about it? Just kill it, I just want to survive. The smell of blood made Xia Hao's killing intent even hotter in his heart. He walked briskly into the crowd, wielding a broad-handled battle knife, and with each drop, an enemy died. Reaching the 7th level of muscle training, Xia Hao's strength created a crushing situation against others on the battlefield. The two sides, which were already evenly matched, formed a one-sided situation in an instant as Xia Hao, a fierce tiger, emerged from the cage. Young master, be mighty. Kill. 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 Brothers, kill all these animals and seek revenge for the general. A volunteer soldier in the 8th grade realm, including Scar Man and Zhang San, seeing Xia Hao so brave, as if entering an uninhabited realm, there is no unified enemy, no less than Xia Wuwei. Suddenly, morale soared, and the sound of fighting echoed through Yuzhong City. Among the 3 major family camps, a young man in armor noticed the changes on the battlefield and casually shot a rebel soldier through his chest, shouting. That's Xia Wuwei's son, Uncle Wu. Let me go meet him. Speaking, he approached Xia Hao's position and killed him. Xia Hao also noticed the other party. Its armor is particularly eye-catching, and in this era, there are very few people who can afford to wear armor. It's just the right time to try out the strength of the Dijin realm. Xia Hao's killing intent was awe-inspiring, waving his war knife and also welcoming him. After reaching the 7th grade Dijin, the body's meridians are tough and powerful, and the body is extremely flexible, which can form an overwhelming advantage over the 8th grade Mo skin realm. Long spear, war knife, just as they made contact, they saw the young man, his face changed, his hands and feet tingled, and his expression was shocked as he said. You are a 7th grade, that's impossible. Xia Hao sneered without saying a word, turned his body sideways, grabbed the opponent's spear, and then suddenly drew and swung his sword, swift and fierce, directly passing through the opponent's neck, which was the defensive weakness of the armor. Bang, the knife flashed, blood splattered, and the head was thrown up, causing the opponent to fall heavily. The first one. Xia Hao muttered to himself and then killed the other 8th grade martial artists. Soon, the clan in the city suffered a defeat. In the hidden basement of the Wu family, the heads of the Wu family, including Wu Fei, Zhou, Wei, and others, all looked anxious, waiting for the outcome of the battlefield. Xia Wuwei is already dead. Without him, the 7th grade warrior, to take control, these 800 rebels will definitely not be able to stop our 3 major families from joining forces. After defeating the rebels, Xia Wuwei must be dismembered in countless pieces to pay tribute to the elders of the clan. The summer bandits plundered the entire city and brutally suppressed the people. The rebels' actions in this way will be their retribution, a debt of blood. Can you inquire about the results of the battle? Xia Wuwei's death has caught us off guard in a sudden crisis. We must be able to catch the rebels off guard. Our 3 families each have 2 8th grade warriors stationed, so it's not difficult to defeat the rebels. During Wu Feizheng's inquiry, a member of his clan hurriedly entered, looking flustered. Master, the situation is not good. A villain has appeared in the rebel army, including the young master and 7th master, who have already been killed by the enemy. Our 3 families are rapidly collapsing. What, how could this be? 7th brother and Mingguang are both 8th grade warriors with armor on their bodies, and there are also 8th grade warriors from the Zhou and Wei families. How could anyone in the rebels have killed him? Wu Fei and others were greatly shocked. When the rebels entered the city, they hid their main force because they were afraid of Xia Wuwei's 7th grade strength. After confirming Xia Wuwei's death, without any hesitation, he immediately launched a counterattack. Master, it seems that the culprit is the son of Xia Wuwei. He may have entered the 7th grade Dijin realm, and his strength is fierce, not weaker than Xia Wuwei. The person anxiously replied. 7th grade, it's 7th grade again. Is it because heaven is going to destroy us? Wu Fei roared in pain, his expression fierce. A 7th grade warrior is enough to determine the outcome of this battle. Send the order, immediately shrink back, retreat around the secret room, and use the deployed bows and crossbows for defense. If the rebels dare to attack, they will let Xia Wuwei follow suit. On the battlefield, the rise of Xia Hao was covered in bloodstains, all of which were the blood of the enemy. The 7th grade is really a crushing situation compared to the 8th grade, in terms of strength and flexibility. After dealing with a difficult 8th grade enemy with another blow, Xia Hao was about to continue killing and found that there were no more invincible people ahead. Only a few dozen scattered people retreated towards a building. Scar Man, Zhang San, and others were bathed in blood, looking at Xia Hao with respectful and fearful eyes. They asked, "Young master, have you broken through to the 7th level realm?" Xia Hao nodded and said, "Lucky breakthrough." "Great, young master, you have finally broken through the 7th grade. Xia Dage has knowledge of it, so he must be extremely pleased." Several people exclaimed and were happy. If it had been before, their respect for Xia Hao was only due to Xia Wuwei's kindness. But at this moment, after experiencing this battle and seeing Xia Hao's bravery and invincibility, it was a heartfelt awe. A younger and more courageous Xia Wuwei. I didn't expect that the Wu, Wei, and Zhou families in the city still had such powerful forces hidden behind them. If it weren't for you, young master, breaking through the 7th level realm and being invincible, the consequences would be unimaginable. Young master, should we continue to kill and eradicate the 3 major families? Xia Hao looked at the rebel soldiers gathered around him, all waiting for his decision. Cutting the grass without removing the roots, the spring breeze blows and it grows again. Naturally, we must continue to kill. However, they are hidden in the dark and have bows and crossbows in hand. If we launch a strong attack, we will inevitably suffer heavy damage. In order to avoid unnecessary sacrifice, I decided to surround without attacking, wait for rabbits and come out to kill one by one. After Xia Hao finished speaking, he looked at Scar Man and ordered. Uncle Li, lead 200 brothers to surround the secret room of the Wu family. Also, bring some dry firewood and kerosene over other brothers, go deal with the people of the other 2 families. This time, be sure to search carefully and not miss any blind spots or dark rooms. Regardless of age, women, and children, all will be eradicated without leaving any future troubles. I don't want to see such a thing happen again. Obedience, young master. Scar Man replied in response. Other volunteers, led by Zhang San and others, quickly followed Xia Hao's plan. New books require follow-up reading, collection, and rewards. Feel free to provide feedback. End of this chapter. Chapter 3. Unexpected Harvest, Xia Hao's Military Order. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 3 Unexpected Harvest, Xia Hao's Military Order. Because the main members of the 3 major families were all killed by Xia Hao and the rebel army. Only a few members of the tribe were left to gather in the secret room of the Wu family for their final struggle. Xia Hao looked at the scene. The secret chamber of the Wu family is located in a heavily guarded mansion, with figures hidden inside. They shoot out crossbows and arrows, repelling the rebel soldiers. In order to avoid unnecessary casualties, Xia Hao ordered. Zhang San, destroy the surrounding buildings and create a quarantine zone, without affecting other buildings. Then, set it on fire. I don't believe where they can hide. At this moment, Xia Hao was bathed in blood all over his body, with evil energy filling the sky, like a demon god emerging from hell. The hundreds of rebels present seemed to see Xia Wuwei alive. This is the strong intimidation brought by his powerful killing of 6 8th grade warriors. The rebel soldiers were all angry and working together. The houses around the secret room were quickly demolished. Dried grass and firewood were brought in again, and the secret room was surrounded. As the flames rose, thick smoke and ash rushed into the secret chamber. Although the secret room is underground, it cannot stop the influx of thick smoke. In the secret room, the remaining soldiers of the Wu, Zhou, and Wei families were sucked in by thick smoke, making it difficult to breathe. These rebels actually think of burning the Chamber of Secrets. It's a big trouble. If they continue to stay here, even if they don't get burned to death, they will still be suffocated alive. Master, what should we do? Hurry up and fight with them. Wu Fei looked out angrily, but calmly said. I knew it might be today, but I was already on guard. In this secret room, there is a passage that can lead directly to the outside of the city. Master Wu is really cunning. If that's the case, why wait? Open the channel quickly and escape from Yuzhong City. Master Zhou exclaimed in surprise. It's a pity I just left like this. The 10,000 stones of grain I stored in the city are cheap and damn cheap for the rebels. If I had known this, I would have set fire to it. Wu Fei was quite angry. As a border area, there has always been a shortage of food. When he discovered the continuous drought in Liangzhou, he spent a huge amount of money to store some food in advance. In addition, the family has a 7th-grade martial artist sitting in charge, and they originally intended to take advantage of the chaotic times to build a great undertaking. Who would have thought of encountering Xia Wuwei, the god of killing, and secretly attacking and killing the 7th-grade warriors of the family? Let's go. This grudge will be avenged sooner or later. Outside the secret room, Xia Hao furrowed his brows and felt something was wrong. There was no movement or escape in the secret room, where they all suffocated to death. It's impossible. When a person is dying, their desire for survival is extremely strong. How could they be suffocated alive without giving it a chance? As a traveler, Xia Hao experienced the era of knowledge explosion and immediately came up with some kind of warfare. Tunnel warfare. In the secret room, there must be an underground passage leading to the outside of the city. They have escaped. Xia Hao flipped over and mounted his horse, picked up his sword, and looked at the members of the rebel army. In the secret room, there may be an underground passage. Zhang San, Zhou Feng, Wang Tai, take 10 brothers with horses and immediately leave the city to search for the traces of the 3 families. When encountering suspicious individuals, no matter who they are, they will be shot to death. Many soldiers were taken aback and quickly understood. They all turned over and mounted their horses, galloping towards the outside of the city. Uncle Li, keep guarding here for an hour. If no one comes out yet, launch an attack and explore the truth. After Xia Hao finished giving orders, he also flipped over and mounted his horse, running towards the outside of the city. Yuzhong City has a rectangular shape, with a length of over 8 li and a width of over 6 li. After Xia Hao left the city, he rushed straight towards the direction closest to the Wu family's secret room. Due to the continuous drought, the outside of the city is desolate, with cracks in the earth, no grass growing, trees withering and yellowing, and the bark stripped away by the hungry. Xia Hao rode his horse to search and also encountered other rebels searching along the way. After searching for a moment, suddenly, a volunteer soldier shouted, "Leader, they have come out of the mass graves outside the city." This shout alarmed Xia Hao and other searching rebels. Xia Hao waved his war knife, galloped his horse, and soon arrived at the tunnel exit. Burial mounds, amidst graves, figures crawled out in an endless stream, looking around to celebrate their escape from birth when they heard the sound of hooves approaching. Damn it, I've been discovered. Wu Fei and others were filled with despair. The joy of other ethnic groups came to an abrupt end, and some female relatives even cried loudly. Fight against the rebels, kill. 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 Xia Hao rode his horse to drive his sword, wielding a war knife. Every time he swung it, he took away a life. Except for women and children, if you don't leave any, kill them all. Xia Hao's expression was cold. Women and children are important productive forces for post-war population recovery, and can also be used to reward those who have made contributions and boost morale. Achieved a complete victory. The leader had clever strategies and was invincible and powerful. These little girls' skins are so tender that they can squeeze water out. It's a pity to kill them. Let's keep them for now. Little brat, you dare to look at me with resentment. Growing up is also a disaster. Go die for me. After the battle, the rebels suppressed the few remaining survivors, all of whom were eligible women, children, and women. The rest were all killed by the rebels and returned to Yuzhong City. This battle, thanks to Xia Hao's efforts to turn the tide, achieved a complete victory. Xia Hao fought for a long time, even though he was already a 7th-grade warrior, he felt physically and mentally exhausted. As soon as I crossed this realm, I immediately went to the battlefield to fight. The stimulation of blood made him kill dozens of people in one breath. When he calmed down, the bloody scenes in his mind suddenly made him feel a bit nauseous. Don't blame me, if you want to blame me, blame this world. I'm just trying to survive. Xia Hao murmured to himself, providing psychological comfort on his own. His original body has killed more people than he did today. The instinct of the body still exists, he just hasn't fully adapted yet. Xia Hao drank a bowl of cold water and sighed in his heart. In times of chaos, life is like grass, I long to return to the original peaceful and prosperous era. But he doesn't know how to go back. Suicide, without any courage, may not necessarily work. Outside the door, the Scar Man walked straight in and asked. Young lord, as per your instructions, brothers have once again searched the entire city and indeed found the inventory of the 3 major families. Xia Hao quickly asked, Uncle Li, how did you get? The Scar Man happily replied, after searching the treasury of the 3 major families, we obtained a total of 13,000 stones of grain, as well as 100 bows and arrows, a total of 1,000 spears and war knives, 200 crossbows, 30 pairs of armor, 8,000 copper coins, 150 kilograms of silver, and 20 kilograms of gold. In addition, there are also some herbs available for martial artists to cultivate, and each of the 3 families has 1 advanced martial arts. Young master, with this harvest, we have no worries about money and food for the time being. The 3 major families, it seems, have long been rebellious and have hidden so many weapons, armor, food, and other supplies. However, they have all given me a cheaper price. Xia Hao smiled and nodded. In times of chaos, food is the hardest and most important to him. As for gold, silver, copper coins, etc., in this chaotic world, there is no place to exchange for food. 3 levels of advanced martial arts can be used as rewards to reward brave warriors of the rebel army. How did the other people in the city react, and did they have any particularly intense reactions? Xia Hao asked again. The Scar Man snorted coldly and said, the 3 major families in Yuzhong City have all been destroyed, so the others naturally dare not speak out and are very honest. Command to go down, brothers, control your own hands and feet, and not bully other people in the city, especially ordinary women and children. Anyone who violates this will be beheaded. Xia Hao said coldly. Young lord, there are some female relatives in the city, some of whom are relatives of the 3 major families. If brothers. This treatment is too strict, isn't it? Scar Man was puzzled. A few days ago, when he first entered the city, the entire city was brutally suppressed, and countless women and children in the city suffered. Most of the rebels are hard-working ordinary people, with their heads pinned on their waistbands. They rebel and make a living, finally occupying the county town. Their primitive instincts erupt, and how could they manage so much? In addition, Xia Wuwei was seriously injured and did not have the energy to manage it. I dare not praise military discipline. Xia Hao looked deeply at the Scar Man, frowning slightly and sighing in his heart. In this era, having a military like a bandit is not a joke, let alone a rebel army, with even greater destructive power. But he is not a person from this world and has not fully integrated into it. If you want long-term development and seek more, you must set rules at the beginning. A rule that no one can violate. Only in this way can we achieve stability and progress. Therefore, Xia Hao decisively ordered. As for the reward, some female relatives from the 3 major families in the city, please arrange to reward your brave brothers in battle. If other ordinary people in the city violate, they will be severely punished without negligence. This is a military order. If anyone disagrees, you can let them come to me. If anyone goes against me, don't blame me for disregarding the Brotherhood of the Robe. New books for collection, monthly passes, and follow. Up reading. End of this chapter. Chapter 4. Ways to increase Qi luck and the manifestation of Qi luck spirits. You are listening at Novel Full. Audio. Chapter 4. Ways to increase Qi luck and the manifestation of Qi luck spirits. The sky is dim, and the autumn wind is howling. At this moment, the entire Yuzhong city is in a state of anxiety, with every door locked down. The people in the city are trembling and hiding in their homes, with no one in the air on the street. The smell of blood permeates the world. In a dilapidated courtyard, a man and a woman, dressed in simple clothes, heard the fighting and laughter of the rebel army in the city, their faces gloomy and worried. Their siblings, from Ganzhou, Suzhou and other places, have walked all the way, with corpses scattered everywhere, wolf dogs howling, and no one smoking. The bustling land of the past, located in the south of the Yangtze River, has long been dilapidated and sparsely populated. Brother, father and mother have already been killed by the bandits on the way. When will we be able to return to Yijing? This journey is so terrifying, it's like a human purgatory. A woman dressed in tattered clothes, with a face covered in black and gray, and bright eyes, implying extreme concern. Beside him was a man with a starry eyebrow and a tall figure, wiping a short sword and sighing. Yuzhong City has just gone through a fierce battle, only allowed to enter and not allowed to leave. We can only wait a little longer. The world is difficult, the people are suffering, and there is constant fighting. The court is afraid of being overthrown. As the rebels defeated the 3 major families, there was no more noise in the entire Yuzhong city. Xia Hao also realized how it feels to control the life and death of thousands of people in a city. Whether to live or die, it all depends on his one thought. There is a feeling of, when an emperor is angry, he will lay 1,000,000 corpses. These seized supplies are stored separately with grain, strictly monitored, and attention is paid to fire prevention. Other weapons armor should be replaced by the brothers who received them. After arranging the search for seized supplies by the rebels, Xia Hao also arranged for the rescue of the injured, the rectification of urban defense, and the care of the people's hearts. Exhausted, he returned to the Lord's mansion for a brief rest, contemplating the future path. Jincheng County in Liangzhou has 7 counties. Yuzhong, Yinwu, Jincheng, Yinjie, Jiang, Haomen, and Lingzhou, which are somewhat similar to the Eastern Han dynasty in Chinese history. But according to the original memory, this is not any dynasty in Chinese history. In my original memory, this country was Jin, which had been established for more than 800 years, with a vast territory of tens of thousands of miles and 16 prefectures under its jurisdiction, with over 1,000 counties and counties. In terms of governing area alone, even if the strong Han and prosperous Tang combined, it is still inferior. But according to Xia Wuwei, there are still hundreds of countries like Jin around, and the size of the region is unimaginable. Thinking that this is an extraordinary world of high martial arts, with extremely strong personal strength, Xia Hao felt it was normal. His 7th level, muscle training, realm, if placed on the earth of his past life, his peak Tyson and Bruce Lee would not be his enemies in one place. Yuzhong City, although small in size and with a relatively small population, is surrounded by abundant water, grass, and arable land resources, as well as the grasslands outside the Great Wall. Surrounded by towering mountains and steep ridges, it is surrounded by a fertile basin of soil. If the entire 7 counties of Jincheng County could be occupied, it could also be a base for one side. Xia Hao thought about the current situation and how difficult it was to create a paradise in a chaotic world. The most important thing is that this world is very extraordinary. If it weren't for him using his energy to break through to the 7th level realm. This time, the rebel army, not only completely destroyed, will definitely suffer great damage and abandon the city to flee. I have reached the level of 7th grade easy muscle. Even if I leave the rebel army, I can still survive, but my golden finger. Xia Hao furrowed his brows and his consciousness entered the space of the Jade Seal. The data on the light screen has not changed at all, and his key focus on the Qi Yun column is still 0. So, how do we obtain Qi luck? The power of Qi can elevate one's realm. With just a little bit of luck, he directly broke through to the 7th level realm and played a decisive role in this battle. If there is enough luck to quickly enhance one's strength, then the whole world can be easily accessed and naturally worry-free. It is not difficult to change dynasties and replace them. Consciousness once again integrated into the Jade Seal of the kingdom, and Xia Hao searched for information. Consolidate the energy of heaven and earth, and transform it into the nourishment of cultivation. The national Jade Seal, cast by the first emperor, was lost after going through dynasties such as Qin, Han, Jin, Sui, Tang, etc. It can be said that it is the most precious antique cultural relic in Chinese history, or, to put it another way, it is the strongest Qi artifact in Chinese history. The Jade Seal of Chuanguo represents the establishment of a feudal state and the legitimacy of the world. So, does it mean that consolidating Qi Yun means the establishment of a feudal state? But now, I only occupy one side of the county seat. If it were to establish a feudal state, wouldn't it be a joke? Or do you mean that as long as you have a certain level of influence, it's enough? I remember that after accepting the position of leader of the rebel army, I was able to enter the space of the Jade Seal and accumulate some luck. In Xia Hao's mind, various thoughts flashed through his mind, and there was a feeling that telling him that to gather energy, it must be related to establishing a force. The composition of a force is very complex. In his past life, as a grassroots public servant, he worked for many years and also learned a lot. Territory, military, population, economy, resources, culture, system, and so on are all important components of a power's strength. These aspects may all be related to the cohesion of air transport. Once you have arrived, let it be. Since you have become the leader of the rebel army and occupied a city, let's first manage it well, reorganize our military equipment, wait for the opportunity, observe changes, and then make plans. In no time, Xia Hao took off his armor and, due to a lack of water, didn't even take a shower, so he lay down to sleep. The next day, with 3 strokes of the sun, Xia Hao woke up leisurely. The tiredness of a day of fighting has disappeared completely, and the vitality of the dragon and tiger has been restored, filling the body with vitality. Arriving at the front courtyard of the Lord's mansion, Zhang San, Li Xing, Scar Man, Zhou Feng, and Wang Tai, 4 8th-grade warriors from the rebel army, were practicing their martial arts in the front courtyard. Xia Hao looked quietly for a while and nodded frequently. As martial arts skills develop through fighting, they only learn to kill lives. Each move is precise, pointing directly at the key, and particularly sharp, making it a true killing technique. From the exercise of the 4, Xia Hao saw some shadows of the flame knife technique, with various routines identical, which should have been taught by Xia Wuwei. These few people are all old brothers who have been following Xia Wuwei for more than 10 years, going through life and death, and being more righteous than Jin Jian. Watching them train, Xia Hao suddenly thought of the divine power brought by the Jade Seal of Chuanguo, which is the manifestation of fate. From yesterday until now, I have been busy with fighting and have not thoroughly studied this divine power. Thinking in his heart, Xia Hao stared at Li Xing, lines of text in front of his retina, gradually becoming clear and elusive. Li Xing, 38 years old, with an 8th-grade skin grinding level, skilled in flame knife technique, and skilled in organizing and coordinating. Although the information was simple, it made Xia Hao extremely happy. The divine power of destiny manifestation can actually reveal a person's age, strength, and expertise. If used well, it will be of great use to him. Turning his gaze again towards Zhou Feng, his head sank and another line of text appeared in front of his retina. Zhou Feng, 34 years old, with an 8th grade skin grinding realm, using fiery sword techniques, skilled in combat, and a wild and passionate personality. Sure enough. Xia Hao murmured to himself in his heart. When I looked at Wang Tai again, I felt dizzy and almost couldn't stand steadily and fell. Wang Tai is 35 years old, with an 8th grade skin grinding level and a fiery sword technique. He has a personality that is as jealous of evil as hatred. Strange, why do you feel a bit tired? Xia Hao didn't continue to use his divine power. After using it 3 times, it made him feel as if he had just experienced a battle and extremely tired. Is it because using fate manifestation requires consuming my own essence and spirit? According to the law of conservation of energy, Xia Hao believes that this is most likely the reason. Before using divine powers to observe, his own mental state was very good. At this moment, Li Xing's gaze caught sight of Xia Hao. Seeing that his complexion was not good, he felt worried and quickly approached to ask. Young master, why are you looking a bit pale when you wake up? New books for collection and follow. Up. Feel free to provide valuable feedback in the comments section. End of this chapter. Chapter 5. If you want to rebel, expand your army first. You are listening at Novel Full. Audio. Chapter 5. If you want to rebel, expand your army first. Xia Hao smiled and said, Uncle Li, maybe it's overwork. Li Xing did not doubt his presence and advised, Young master, if you're tired, take more rest. Your body and bones are the most important. Zhang San, Zhou Feng, and Wang Tai also gathered around, asking for warmth and comfort. When discussing the current situation, Xia Hao came up with a question and asked. Dear uncles, I thought for a long time last night. After the battle last night, our rebel soldiers only have 700 people left, and we are seriously understaffed. Therefore, I would like to ask for your opinion. Young master, do you mean to expand the army? Li Xing answered first. Xia Hao nodded and said, Not bad, our military strength is weak. If the official army comes to attack, it will be difficult to resist. Expanding the army is also possible, but it's a bit difficult to source troops, Li Xing said with a stern expression, while the other 3 also had the same expression. After a difficult attack on Yuzhong City, in order to seek revenge and vent their anger, the rebels were not weak and launched a bloody crackdown on the entire city, causing the people of Yuzhong City to turn pale when talking about the rebel army. It is undoubtedly very difficult to recruit troops from Yuzhong City. Because you don't know if there were any relatives who died due to the rebels and the recruited soldiers. Although this is a chaotic world, human life is like grass. But a few people are still worried that if someone who harbors a grudge against the rebels is really recruited into the army, it will be a huge hidden danger. Xia Hao's eyebrows furrowed slightly, and his bloody suppression did indeed make the people of Yuzhong City fear the rebel army like a tiger. In addition, yesterday's battle with the 3 major families resulted in countless deaths. What if we recruit refugees from outside the city to enter the army? Li Xing's eyes lit up and he agreed, this is quite possible. There should be many refugees outside the city. If we can recruit them into the army, it can solve the problem of military resources, but just what? Xia Hao asked in confusion. Zhou Feng said, Let me tell you. Due to the continuous severe drought and crop failure within the country, the people cannot survive. Most of them hide in the mountains, and it will be difficult to find them. Jincheng County is a basin, with continuous mountains and abundant forest vegetation within and around it. If one cannot survive, they may find a glimmer of vitality by hiding in it. In mountain forests, one can also obtain some water sources and food. Xia Hao frowned slightly, but this was a problem. With hundreds of people in the Yijuan district, they were placed in the forest and couldn't even see a splash of water. Let's start by recruiting soldiers in the city. We have food, so we can attract some hungry people. As for the outside of the city, search for villages around the county town. In times of chaos, there are countless hungry people. Give it a try. By the way, how are the brothers who were injured yesterday now? How many doctors have been found in the city? In the era of cold weapons, the number of people killed directly in battle was far less than the number of people injured and killed after the war. Especially wound infections, wind and cold diseases, etc., rely solely on the immune system to survive. If you can't make it through, you'll have to die. Wang Tai replied, yesterday in the battle, there were over 100 injured brothers, some of whom were seriously injured, some had skin injuries, and there were only 3 doctors in the city who lacked some medicinal herbs. Take me to take a look. Xia Hao and his 5 companions rode horses towards the residence of the Wu family in the city. The residences of the 3 major families were arranged for public use, allowing the wounded to recover and storing food, weapons, and other supplies. As soon as I entered the ward, an unpleasant herbal smell came from me. Xia Hao shrugged his nose, frowned slightly, and Zhang San and others all looked accustomed to it. After seeing the chaotic appearance in the room, Xia Hao's eyebrows furrowed even deeper. In the room, hundreds of injured rebel soldiers stayed directly in various corners. A scene full of sorrowful memories, blood and broken limbs everywhere, with 3 emaciated old men shuttling back and forth carrying dark medicinal soup. This kind of environment and treatment method, which could not have died originally, must also be cured to death. Xia Hao felt speechless in his heart. Li Xing arrived among the many injured soldiers, his eyes slightly blurred, and he shouted loudly, "Brothers, the young master has come to see you." The injured soldiers saw Xia Hao with a walking corpse-like appearance, without the excitement and enthusiasm they had imagined. Just scattered sounds of leaders, generals, young masters, and so on. Most of the heavily injured rebel soldiers had completely lost their vitality in their eyes, as if they knew they would die. Xia Hao looked at the crowd and loudly said, "Brothers, I am Xia Hao. I will do my best to find herbs and a doctor to cure you. This is my promise." At this moment, the gaze of many wounded soldiers changed slightly, and their answering voices became much more organized. "Thank you, leader. Thank you, general." Xia Hao looked at Li Xing, who was in charge of logistics, and ordered, "Uncle Li, I remember searching for some poultry from the 3 major families. Boil some broth for the brothers to taste." Upon hearing the broth, the wounded soldiers immediately became noisy, whispering to each other. Their mental state changed a lot, and a smile appeared on their faces. "General, it's been over a year since I last tasted meat. When I'm dying, if I could have some broth, I'll be satisfied." "Me too. Last time I ate meat, before the drought, I picked up a wild dog bone." Seeing that using a bowl of meat soup boosted his morale, Xia Hao felt a strange feeling in his heart, with his eyes slightly blurred. For these rebel soldiers, being able to drink a bowl of meat soup is much better than any spiritual stimulation, and they no longer fear death. Their requirements are very simple. To be able to eat enough, to survive, that's all. Xia Hao seemed to understand how to deal with people's hearts. More than an hour later, when buckets of boiled meat soup were brought in, cheers reached their peak. The rebel army has recruited soldiers. They have 2 meals a day, are well fed, have enough water pipes, and also provide 10 kilograms of coarse grain as settlement expenses. It's really fake, my family can't cook anymore. Hurry up, after this village, there won't be this shop anymore. When the news and conditions of the volunteer army's recruitment spread in Yuzhong City, to the surprise of Xia Hao and others, a continuous stream of people came to participate in the recruitment. The recruitment point outside the Lord's mansion was crowded with various hungry young people. Especially when Xia Hao ordered the bags of corn distributed on site to be carried out, the people's eyes turned red. Xia Hao felt that if it weren't for him and dozens of rebels, armed with weapons, watching from the side, the food would likely have been seized crazily. Come one by one, name, age, where the people are from. Li Xing held a brush and recorded information on bamboo chops, which became a proof of joining the army. Xia Hao watched quietly from the side. Although there were not many people in Yuzhong City, there were many who came to recruit soldiers. On the first day of recruitment, more than 300 people qualified. Outside the city, Zhang San, Wang Tai, and Zhou Feng each led a team to the villages outside the city to recruit soldiers. In the blink of an eye, 3 days had passed, and the result of the recruitment also surprised Xia Hao greatly. Li Xing, holding the list of new recruits, happily reported. In these 3 days, we have recruited a total of 800 new soldiers, of which 600 are the people of Yuzhong City with innocent backgrounds. There are also 200 refugees outside the city. Xia Hao took over the military strategy and asked, Uncle Li, how long can our stored grain last? Food is crucial. Without it, nothing can be improved in this chaotic world. The 13,000 stones of grain seized from the 3 major families were the courage of Xia Hao to expand his army. Now we have a total of 15,000 stones of grain and grass, of which 2,000 stones were previously stored by our rebel army. If we save some, it will be enough for us to use for more than April. New books seek collection and follow. Up reading. Feel free to provide feedback in the comments section. End of this chapter. Chapter 6. Training and Situation. You are listening at Novel Full. Audio. Chapter 6. Training and Situation. 4 months, time is neither long nor short. Grain will be the most important issue, followed by others, Xia Hao thought to himself. Although food is temporarily sufficient, in the long run, it is far from enough. In times of chaos, food is the most precious. But the severe drought is still ongoing, and there is no harvest at all. There is currently no way to obtain food. After recruiting soldiers, it is natural to undergo training. Otherwise, sending them to the battlefield is only a matter of being slaughtered and receiving merit. Since the new recruits have been recruited, do you have any good suggestions regarding military training, Uncle Li? Xia Hao asked. Li Xing shook his head and said, Young master, I just learned some moves from brother Xia and went to a private school for a few years. I don't know anything about military training. Xia Hao asked again, Wang Tai, where are Zhang San and Zhou Feng? Li Xing continued to shake his head and said, they can't do it either. Your father personally trained the soldiers before. Xia Hao frowned slightly, which was also a major issue. The establishment of the rebel army was very short and lacked various talents. Both military training personnel and those who can read and write are lacking, and the vast majority of newly recruited soldiers are also rough and inexperienced. In the state of Jin, those who could read and read were generally only wealthy families, aristocratic families, and ordinary families, at most like Li Xing, could already be considered as poor families. Recalling some of the contents of military training in his past life and a rough understanding of ancient military training methods, Xia Hao felt that he could only personally lead the troops for training. Ginchen, although he has a good talent in martial arts, he has only a partial understanding of military training. Teaching him the art of fighting is still possible. Xia Hao knew in his heart that in military operations, the collective power is more powerful than the individual power. Of course, if there is superpersonal strength, one can also defeat 10,000. But after all, they are very few, the vast majority are ordinary people, making it difficult to enter the market. Uncle Li, then let me train the soldiers, Xia Hao said calmly. In his opinion, military training is both difficult and simple. In the era of cold weapons, the main ways to enhance the combat effectiveness of the military were physical fitness, collectivity, fighting skills, and fighting willpower. Coincidentally, Xia Hao himself knows a little bit about these aspects. In recent days, the people in Yuzhong City have calmed down a lot, but the expected chaos has not occurred. The military discipline of the rebel army has improved significantly under Xia Hao's iron-fisted governance. Former leader of the rebel army, Xia Wuwei, was also buried peacefully without causing any disturbance. However, all 700 rebel soldiers were dressed in mourning, and the entire city was plain. After Xia Wuwei entered the land for peace. Some bold shops in the city have quietly opened their doors, and the number of pedestrians on the street has gradually increased. When a group of rebel soldiers dressed in coarse linen appeared, singing a song that made the people of Yuzhong City feel refreshed, the people of Yuzhong City were all stunned and discussing. Look, the rebels are training again on the street. Their steps are quite neat and fierce, no wonder they can occupy Yuzhong City. What song are they singing? Although it's a bit strange, it still sounds very imposing. Xia Hao, dressed in armor and wielding a red tassel battle knife, led the crowd of thousands of people in shouting and singing. How can I say I have no clothes? I am in the same robe as my son. Wang Yu is in charge of training my spear and spear. I am in enmity with my son. How can it be said that you have nothing to wear? I will share my clothes with you. Wang Yuxing, repair my spear and halberd. Working together with my son. That's right, this is exactly the military song of Xia Hao's military training. The Qin Feng in the Book of Songs. He didn't expect that the effect would be surprisingly good. Perhaps the training methods in this world are quite rigid, or it is possible that thousands of volunteers have never heard of military songs. When sung, it really plays a role in consolidating morale. In addition, some methods of exercising physical fitness during previous military training, such as push-ups, pull-ups, sit-ups, weightlifting, and long-distance running, have also been applied by him in training. Of course, the most important training is still the teaching of the flame knife technique, which is the core of training and the true art of fighting. In the era of cold weapons, the skill of killing is an important indicator of the strength of an army. The flame blade technique is an entry-level martial art passed down from Xia Hao's family. It can be practiced for a long time and can be used to refine the body. If one has slightly better talent, perceives the sense of qi, condenses internal breath, completes a 100-day foundation building, and reaches the level of entering the product, it is also highly possible. As for the advanced martial arts obtained from the three major families in Yuzhong City, they are Black Evil Palm, Blazing Fire Spear Technique, and Tiger Roaring Blade Technique. Xia Hao just glanced at it roughly and felt that it was not as profound as the family tradition of Flame Blade Technique. As for spreading it, he doesn't mind either. For 8th grade students, such as Li Xing and Zhou Feng, have already been taught by Xia Wuwei. Report, General, there is urgent intelligence. Speak up. Xia Hao asked seriously. General, according to the news from the reconnaissance cavalry, a large number of people and horses from the Jin army have been found outside Haomen County, 160 miles north of Yuzhong City. Haomen County has been captured by the Jin army. The reconnaissance cavalry quickly replied. After listening, Xia Hao's expression suddenly changed, as if it were a bolt from the blue. Haomen County is very close to Yuzhong County. Since the official army has recaptured Haomen County, the army's front will definitely point at Yuzhong County. The official army came too fast. He has only traveled to this world for a week and has gained preliminary control of Yuzhong County. New recruit training has just begun. If the official army of Dajin were to attack at this time, his efforts in recent days would likely be in vain. Thank you for your hard work. Keep exploring and make sure to understand the situation of this group of officials and soldiers. City Lord's Mansion, Xia Hao summoned Li Xing, Zhang San, and others to share this news with everyone. Li Xing suddenly heard this and his face was extremely gloomy. He asked. The Jin army has always been well equipped, but our volunteer army lacks training and there is a gap in weapons. If the Jin army comes to attack Yuzhong City, what should we do? Wang Tai also spoke up and asked, "The official army has already captured Haomen, which is only a 2-day journey away from us. We must make early plans and prepare for the situation. Yuzhong City cannot be easily abandoned. There is water and food here. If we abandon it directly, our military morale will be unstable. There is no need for the Jin army to attack, and we will be defeated ourselves." Xia Hao said in a deep voice, "Uncle Zhou is right. Unless absolutely necessary, we cannot easily give up Yuzhong City. The city is extremely desolate and lacks water sources, which cannot sustain the survival of our brothers. Now, it is necessary to urgently deploy defenses, reinforce defensive works, and build them. As long as they can hold the official army for a period of time, the current situation in various parts of Liangzhou may bring about a turning point. In addition, search for carpenters and blacksmiths in the city, repair and forge weapons as soon as possible. When facing battle, we cannot let our brothers' weapons not even be used. We also need to select suitable candidates to operate the obtained crossbows and deploy them in important positions." Most of the deployment for this battle was made by Xia Hao and supplemented by others. Because we don't plan to abandon the city, we mainly focus on setting up defensive fortifications. After everyone left, Xia Hao furrowed his brows. Doing these things did not reassure him. Only when it came to his own strength was the most important thing. Over the past week, after cleaning up the enemy within the city, rectifying the city defense, training the army, stabilizing the hearts of the people, comforting the wounded soldiers, and expanding the army on a large scale, Xia Hao felt that the power he was leading was undoubtedly much stronger than when he first crossed over. Enter the Jade Seal space and see if there has been an increase in chi luck. If there has been no change, it's better to plan again. Consciousness enters the Jade Seal space. The ancient and rustic national Jade Seal releases a touch of golden light, bringing a glimmer of light to the dim space. At the first moment, Xia Hao looked at the light curtain. End of this chapter. Chapter 7. Consolidate Qi and Improve Again. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7. Consolidate Qi and Improve Again. It has been 10 days since crossing this realm, and Xia Hao is busy every day. Unconsciously, he has already done a lot of things, and it is time to reap rewards. Name: Xia Hao, Qi Yun. 1. Realm: E Gene, Progress. 20%. Practice: Flame Blade Technique, Beginners and Beginners Practice, plus, Divine Power. Manifestation of Fate. The numbers on the screen of light made Xia Hao particularly excited, and the results of these days of experiments proved that his ideas were completely correct. As I guessed, in order to increase my chi value, I must increase the strength of my own faction. I carried out a series of actions such as expanding my army and training, tidying up the hearts of the people, and so on, which allowed me to gain one more chi value. Xia Hao first looked at the realm column, which was still the 7th grade easy muscle realm, but his progress reached 20%, which was the result of his diligent cultivation this week. Unfortunately, there is no plus sign at the end, making it impossible to make improvements. It may be due to insufficient energy supply, or rather, the need to continue improving the progress, most likely due to the former. Upgrading from the 8th grade skin grinding level to the 7th grade easy tendon level only consumes a small amount of chi. However, in order to reach the 6th grade bone forging level, it naturally requires more chi. Every time one reaches a higher level, their strength will explosively increase. High-grade warriors will mostly crush low-grade warriors unless there are special circumstances. Just like him, with his initial 7th grade strength, he continuously killed 6 8th grade enemies without any damage to himself. Then we can only improve the flame saber technique first. By improving our realm, we can achieve a 10-level reduction with one force. With the improvement of knife techniques, one can also achieve 4 or 2 strokes of 1,000 pounds. In the current battle, Xia Hao did not hesitate and directly added points to the flame blade technique. In my mind, a new insight about the flame knife technique constantly blends into my heart, as if enlightened by a virtuous master. I have gained a deeper understanding of the knife technique. The flame knife technique is a top-notch skill passed down by the Xia family, which not only includes killing techniques but also the technique of internal cultivation. The ninth level, nourishing state, refers to the practice of internal cultivation, to cultivate a mouthful of internal breathing, nourish the body, and nurture strength. The eighth grade, grinding skin state, is to use internal breathing to temper the skin, making it tough like a cow. With the improvement of the flame sword technique, Xia Hao waved his red lantern war knife, wielding a powerful force and rolling up heavy air currents. He opened and closed wide, as if commanded by his arms, extending his body. Looking at the light curtain in the space of the Jade Seal, name. Xia Hao, Qi Yun. 0, Realm. E Gene, Progress. 30%, Practice. Flame Blade Technique, Beginner's Guide, Divine Power. Manifestation of Fate. Improving the Flame Blade Technique only consumed a small amount of Qi, reaching the level of first glimpse into the path. With the progress of Easy Muscle, it also increased by 10%. Yes, improving one's understanding of martial arts may also lead to an increase in cultivation. Next, in addition to preparing for the upcoming war, we need to intensify our cultivation, improve our progress, and complete the tempering of our entire body's muscles as soon as possible. After practicing for a while, Xia Hao received food from the rebels, including a plate of pancakes, a plate of sauce pork, and a bowl of egg soup. If it were in a past life, any ordinary family could eat it. In this world, amidst the chaos, it is already a rare and precious delicacy. Many ordinary families may be gnawing on tree bark, digging wild vegetables, starving and satisfying. Eating pancakes, the taste was very average, even difficult to taste, but Xia Hao ate them very fragrant. Since crossing over, he has gradually become accustomed to it, from having no appetite at all to being able to indulge in it. He also had no intention of going to eat at the same table and sleep together with other volunteer soldiers to buy people's hearts. That's not necessary, he's not used to it either. People who practice martial arts, especially those who have reached the level of cultivation, need to regularly consume a large amount of food, especially meat, to supplement energy and maintain progress. Otherwise, it will be like sailing against the current, either advancing or retreating. Quickly, a stack of pancakes, soy sauce pork, and egg soup were all eaten by Xia Hao without any waste. After finishing the meal, he stood up, put on the armor confiscated from the 3 major families, held a red tassel sword, flipped over and mounted his horse, heading towards the city wall. The official army will attack Yuzhong City in the next 2 days without any accidents, and the defense of the city wall is of utmost importance. General. Leader. As Xia Hao rode his horse, the rebel soldiers cheered one after another, clearly possessing great prestige. The gate of Yuzhong City is over 1 zhang wide and made of black iron wood. It is sturdy and durable, and can prevent water and fire. It is a commonly used material for city gates. Third uncle, the defense of the city gate is up to you. You are not allowed to enter or leave. Anyone who wants to enter or exit the city gate must be subjected to strict interrogation and inspection. If necessary, they can be arrested first, Xia Hao ordered. The strongest fortress is often breached from within, and if the Jin army wants to attack, they will definitely think of internal cooperation and external cooperation. So, the defense of the city gate is crucial. Zhang San nodded heavily and said, "Young master, don't worry. If the city gate is broken, step over my body." After seeing the city gate, Xia Hao climbed up the wall of Yuzhong City again. Although it was just a small town in the border county, the wall was more than 3 zhang high, with towers and notches, and was equipped with captured crossbows, archers, and axes for defense. This is the first and most important line of defense for the city. If we cannot use our advantageous position to kill the enemy, it will be difficult to defend Yuzhong City. The defense of the city wall was entrusted by Xia Hao to Zhou Feng and Wang Tai, each leading 300 volunteers to patrol along the city wall. As for the newly recruited 800 new recruits, they are still in training and will not be sent to the battlefield unless absolutely necessary. Uncle Zhou, Uncle Wang, how is the defense arrangement of the city wall? Is there anything missing? Xia Hao asked. Zhou Feng replied, there is no shortage of weapons, it's just a shortage of manpower. Xia Hao smiled and said, the new recruits are still in training and cannot be deployed on the city wall defense for the time being. The number of enemies should not be too many. If there are no large-scale siege equipment, it will not be easy to climb the city wall. Unless they also have 7th grade experts who lead the way and wear armor to climb the city. The reason why the rebels were able to occupy Yuzhong City was mainly because Xia Wuwei led the way, climbed the ladder, and personally attacked the city. Otherwise, it would be difficult to capture Yuzhong City solely based on the strength of the rebels. From ancient times to the present, in the era of cold weapons, it was very difficult to attack a city. Shaozhu, the Jin army should not be underestimated, with an unfathomable foundation. The Jin dynasty has been established for 800 years, and now, although it is ruled by treacherous officials and corrupt rulers, it is also plagued by natural disasters and man-made disasters, and everywhere is filled with beacon smoke. However, the foundation of the Jin dynasty is still there, and there may be 7th grade experts or even 6th grade high-skilled soldiers in the official army dispatched this time. Zhou Feng solemnly reminded him, worried that Xia Hao would underestimate the enemy. Xia Hao smiled and nodded. How could he possibly underestimate the enemy? Among the thousands of soldiers in the rebel army, no one is more afraid of death than him. Soldiers come to block, water comes to cover the earth. The lion fights the rabbit with all his strength. No matter who the enemy is, we need to fight with all our strength. We can't afford to lose. From now on, we will work twice a day and night to defend our positions and prepare for the Jin army's attack. A day quickly passed during the emergency preparation of the rebel army. The next day, just as the sun had risen, reconnaissance cavalry rode their horses to report. General, the enemy has reached 10 miles outside the city. New books for collection, for follow-up reading. Feel free to provide feedback in the comments section. End of this chapter. Chapter 8. Official Army Arrives, Siege Battle. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8 Official Army Arrives, Siege Battle, so fast, in just 2 days, they came. Haomen County is more than 160 miles away from Yuzhong County. If we march at full speed, we can arrive in just 1 day. Even with the siege equipment, within a reasonable time. Moreover, there is a high possibility that the official army of the Jin who came to suppress the rebellion will be filled with many skilled warriors. As long as one has a slight talent, sufficient resources and techniques, and diligently studies and practices, it is not difficult to reach the 9th level, nourishing state. Xia Hao dared not be careless and quickly rode his horse to the city wall. Stepping into the 7th grade realm made his vision excellent. On the horizon several miles away, waves of dust and smoke had already been stirred up, with faint sounds of horse hooves falling, the sound of golden swords colliding, and the faint appearance of blood-colored battle flags. In no time, Li Xing, Zhou Feng, Zhang San, Wang Tai, 4 8th grade warriors from the rebel army, also arrived one after another. Looking at the approaching official army, there was a dark and overwhelming scene, with so many people that they couldn't see the edge at a glance. Everyone present, including Xia Hao, was somewhat trembling with fear. They are just a rebel army, formed only a few months ago. When did they see the official army of Jin suppressing the rebellion? The captured Yuzhong city was only defended by some county government soldiers and some servants from the 3 major families at that time. Wang Tai's voice was trembling. According to this formation, the number of official troops is at least 3,000 or even more, and there are many iron cavalry. How should we defend ourselves? Li Xing encouraged the soldiers and said, "It's not easy to attack a city. As long as we stick to the city and respond well, they won't be so easy to attack. When it comes to major events, don't panic, do your best to deal with them, and you just need to take action." Xia Hao nodded in agreement and said, "Uncle Li is right. Yuzhong City is our temporary foundation. Be prepared and go all out. If you want to capture Yuzhong City, you also need to ask the sword in my hand if you agree." After speaking, Xia Hao looked at the volunteer soldiers on the city wall, who were waiting in battle, and shouted loudly. "Brothers of the rebel army, I will lead you to guard Yuzhong City and repel the bandits. Do you have confidence?" Most of the rebels above the city wall have witnessed Xia Hao's fierce battle with their own eyes. Upon hearing Xia Hao's roar, they all responded frantically. "Yes. Yes. Yes. General, invincible. Kill. Kill. Kill." Seeing that his morale was working, Xia Hao's fear completely weakened a bit. As the great man said, one should despise the opponent strategically and value the opponent tactically. In that special era, with such a huge gap in strength between us and the enemy, we also overthrew the 3 mountains and achieved complete victory in the end. Raising his sword in his hand, Xia Hao, with a tall and sturdy figure in armor, roared up to the sky. "Brothers, hold your ground and follow me to kill the enemy. General, mighty. Kill the enemy, kill the enemy." Above the city wall, there were thunderous sounds and a frenzied atmosphere, followed by Xia Hao roaring one after another. Li Xing, Wang Tai, and others were also emotional and drew out their weapons, shouting excitedly. On the occasion of the arrival of the rebellious official army outside the city, the morale of the rebel soldiers also reached its peak. Hundreds of meters away from Yuzhong City, a large army stands at a standstill, with warhorses roaring and flags fluttering. The leader is dressed in silver armor, holding a dark golden spear, with a burly figure and a youthful appearance. His eyes have a proud expression. Beside him, a middle-aged man wearing a Dejin official robe spoke respectfully. "General Hua, the front is Yuzhong City, which has been occupied by a rebel army. According to the intelligence obtained by the spies, there are only about 1,000 rebels in this army. The leader of the rebel army is a master of the 7th level realm and has been seriously injured. There are several 8th level warriors, and the others are ordinary farmers who rebel and are vulnerable to a single blow." The young man in silver armor sneered and said, "How can the peasant rebels in this area stop the pace of our army? Send someone to persuade surrender first. If they don't surrender, they will attack the city directly, and their horses will tread on the city walls, causing blood to flow into the river." "Yes, General Hua." Immediately, armored cavalry galloped under the Yuzhong city wall and shouted to Xia Hao and others on the wall. "The people of Yuzhong City, General Hua, have an order. If you surrender in Kaicheng, let bygones be bygones. Surrender quickly and don't resist in a corner." Above the city wall, Xia Hao's expression was cold and solemn. With a gesture, Li Xing had already handed over an iron bow. "Draw a bow and arrow, the strings are like a full moon." With a swoosh, the sound of arrows breaking through the air sounded as fast as lightning, crossing a beautiful arc. Under the attention of the rebel soldiers and the officers of the Jin dynasty, he accurately hit the opponent, piercing through the center of his eyebrows and falling to the ground with a loud roar, his warhorses howling with sorrow. "General, mighty." The morale of the rebel army was greatly shaken, and everyone cheered. Xia Hao looked at the young man in silver armor led by the official army. Although he didn't speak, his actions had already made his choice. Surrender is impossible, only war. The young man in silver armor, as a general leading the army to suppress rebellion, naturally had strong strength. Seeing Xia Hao's indifferent and contemptuous gaze, the killing intent in his eyes became even stronger. "Immediately attack the city, and when you break through the city walls, no chickens or dogs will stay." With a command, Thousands of officers and soldiers behind the cavalry, dressed in iron or leather armor, were tall and burly, wielding various weapons such as long spears, war knives, and chains, and swiftly galloping towards the city wall of Yuzhong with ladders. At the same time, the cavalry in the front row all drew their bows and arrows, shooting out arrow feathers in an extremely neat manner to provide cover for the attacking infantry. The siege of the city erupted in an instant. Above the walls of Yuzhong city, Xia Hao watched the opponent's methodical attack, feeling a hint of concern in his heart. Quickly commanding the battle, the voice sounded like a thunderbolt, spreading throughout the entire city wall. Brothers, rely on the battlements of the city wall to defend against the loss of arrows. Brothers in the tower, use bows and crossbows to counterattack. As the rain of arrows rained down from the sky, some of the rebels who couldn't escape were directly pierced through their bodies. Xia Hao truly felt how cruel the cold weapon war was. It was a real grinding wheel of flesh and blood. Fight back, fight back. Xia Hao kept yelling, commanding the battle. Li Xing, there is insufficient manpower at the right pier, please provide support quickly. Pay attention to avoiding arrows and use the defense of the battlements. While commanding the battle, Xia Hao also constantly drew his bow and set arrows, with arrows soaring into the sky. Each arrow that fell could take the life of an official soldier. The original martial arts talent is already good, especially the ability to ride and shoot, surpassing 800 rebels. After Xia Hao broke through the 7th level realm, his agility and vision greatly improved, and his shooting skills became more accurate. As the rebel army bravely counterattacked, the number of people was rare after all. Coupled with the dense attacks from the enemy, with arrows and feathers covering the sky, the attacking infantry finally lifted the ladder onto the city wall, and the BPUP climbed up. Kill! 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 Xia Hao also roared, shield bearer, take cover and defend against the enemy's arrows. Bowman, missed the arrow at the infantry climbing the ladder. The long-range attacks of the official army were extremely fierce, and the rebels lacking armor were shot by the enemy's arrows, ranging from severe injuries to immediate death. Only by using shield players for defense can we provide cover for crossbowmen. Volunteer soldiers braved a dense rain of arrows, constantly shooting arrows one after another, taking advantage of their superior position to shoot down the officials who climbed up the ladder. General, most of the opponents are armored soldiers, so the kill rate is too low. New books seek collection and follow. Up reading. Feel free to provide feedback in the comments section. End of this chapter. Chapter 9. 100 People Slaying. You are listening at Novel Full. Audio. Chapter 9. 100 People Slaying. The official army that came to suppress the rebellion in the Great Jin Dynasty is naturally an elite army. Far superior to the rebel army that has only been formed for a few months and lacks nutrition and training. In addition, the huge advantage of wearing iron armor makes it difficult for ordinary arrows to hit vital points such as the eyes and mouth. However, Xia Hao had already anticipated this situation. Although he has no practical experience in defending cities, based on the experience in Chinese history, there are still some things that can be learned from the cold weapon age. So, some stones were dismantled in advance from the city and piled up in the corridors on the city walls. Brothers, smash with a stone. Xia Hao let out a loud roar, picked up a huge stone, and led the way by smashing it directly at the official army on the ladder. The throwing force of the human body, combined with the inertia of the gravity of the stones, fell from a height of more than 10 meters, directly smashing down an enemy attacking the city and dying. Sure enough, using giant stones to block has greatly improved the effect. Wearing armor, it is inconvenient to move and can only resist each giant stone hard. The officers and soldiers who were smashed to the ground were all seriously injured and most of them lost their combat effectiveness. Although the results have been seen, the number of besieged officials and troops is too large, constantly pouring in, leaving the rebels overwhelmed. Finally, an armored official waved his sword and jumped into the city wall, chopping indiscriminately at the defending rebels. In the blink of an eye, 3 soldiers were struck by swords, their blood flowing profusely, and they died on the spot. This is an incoming enemy. Xia Hao constantly paid attention to the situation on the city wall. Seeing that it was only a dozen meters away from him, he rushed over with an arrow step and swung his sword with great force. The violent force swept directly over the opponent's neck. Wow, a really big head flew up, blood splattered. Xia Hao took a photo of a volunteer soldier who was almost hit by the enemy and shouted. "Brothers, be extra careful. If the other party rushes forward and cannot resist, immediately call for support, and I will be by your side. General, invincible." The rebel army was inspired by this and became emotionally excited, with great fighting spirit, and immediately joined the battle. Xia Hao, on the other hand, acted like a firefighting team. Whenever there was a lack of defense in any part of the city wall, he immediately waved his sword and killed the enemy. With his 7th grade strength and his sword technique that has reached the first glimpse level, there are hardly any enemies under his 7th grade. The battle is still ongoing, with constant fighting, causing significant damage to both the rebels and the enemy. Especially Xia Hao, as if tirelessly cruising around the city walls, wielding his swords and reaping the lives of enemy soldiers. With him, a 7th grade warrior, defending the city wall, the enemy, who had been continuously attacking for more than 2 hours, was unable to reach the wall until they gained a huge advantage. Outside Yuzhong City, the silver-armored general looked at the battlefield with a pale face. His invincible army attacked the small city of Yuzhong, but it took more than 2 hours to capture it. What is even more despicable is that the armored warriors who attacked the city suffered heavy losses, with at least hundreds of people being killed on the spot after entering the city walls. General Hua, the siege soldiers are extremely exhausted. Continuing to attack will cause greater losses. Should we retreat first before making plans? A worried expression appeared on someone's face next to General's silver armor. The young man in silver armor remained silent, feeling proud inside and not allowing him to return so hastily. Pointing towards the city wall, Xia Hao, who was about to kill an official army with a single blow, snorted coldly. "Captain Li, above the enemy's city wall, there is a young man in armor with extremely strong strength. I suspect that he may have entered the 7th grade realm." Li Xiaowei followed the direction pointed by the young man in silver armor and also saw the scene of Xia Hao wielding his sword and fighting. With his pupils contracting, he said incredulously, "Our spies in Yuzhong City are not here to report. Among this rebellious army, only Xia Wuwei, a 7th grade expert, is seriously injured and has fallen. Where did this 7th grade warrior come from? It's just a rebellion. How could he have 2 7th grade warriors?" The silver armor youth's gaze was cold and his killing intent was chilling as he said, "A 7th grade warrior, personally defend against the city wall. Unless there are multiple 8th grade warriors besieging each other at the same time, it is difficult to kill them. General Hua, since that's the case, let's retreat first and then discuss countermeasures," suggested Captain Li. "Well, Ming Jin's troops are coming to an end." As the drum sounded, the vanguards of the siege received orders and began to retreat slowly. Above the city wall, Xia Hao was already exhausted. Even though he was in the 7th grade realm, he was still just an ordinary person. After 2 hours of continuous fighting and killing dozens of enemy soldiers, it gradually declined. In just a few days of entering this world, he has achieved the feat of killing 100 people. Seeing the enemy attacking the city and retreating, Li Xing shouted excitedly, "General, we have repelled the bandit army. We have won." Xia Hao's expression remained solemn as he shook his head and said, "It's not that simple. The enemy we killed is only 200 to 300, and the enemy has several thousand soldiers. We can still continue to organize attacks. And our soldiers are already exhausted in defensive battles. If the enemy continues to organize attacks, it will be difficult for us to stop them. I didn't expect that the officers and soldiers of Dejin had such strong combat effectiveness, which exceeded my expectations." In his heart, he subconsciously believed that in the end of a dynasty, the army would inevitably be vulnerable. Unexpectedly, the official army who came to attack the city not only had extremely advanced equipment, but also had an exceptionally strong fighting spirit. If it weren't for the enemy's surrender, these vanguards of the siege would have continued to attack fiercely and fearlessly. If that's the case, even if they can ultimately hold on, the rebels will inevitably suffer heavy losses. Dejin has a history of 800 years since its founding, occupying thousands of miles of land and plundering endless resources and wealth, with an unfathomable heritage. Despite political corruption, treacherous officials in power, and the emperor's incompetence, the heritage of Dejin cannot be underestimated, sighed Li Xing. When your father was here, he once said that if it weren't for the continuous drought in the 6 northern states, coupled with the government's continuous tax hikes, disregarding the deaths of the people, and sucking on the marrow, it would have caused public resentment to boil. There were also dozens of other rebel forces who, in order to survive, agreed to rebel. He dared not kill officials and led our brothers to rebel. Xia Hao's gaze was profound, as he gazed in the direction of the capital city of Jing, feeling the heavy responsibility and long road ahead. He has the ability to gather qi and turn it into cultivation resources through the transmission of the National Jade Seal, and also has the identity of a rebel. He can only go all the way down the path of rebellion. Arrange for someone to immediately remove the armor from the killed officers and soldiers, and let the rebel soldiers replace it, Xia Hao ordered. The rebels have a significant gap in weapons and equipment compared to the enemy, especially in armor. The entire rebel army, only the armor previously seized from the 3 major families, was worn by himself, as well as by those who entered the martial arts ranks such as Li Xing, Wang Tai, Zhou Feng, and Zhang San. Li Xing immediately replied, "Yes, young master." Xia Hao's address to him hesitated slightly, but he did not correct it. He continued to organize a new training reserve team and arrange for them to transport stones, arrows, and other items onto the city wall. At the same time, lift up the prepared meat soup and pancakes. Let the brothers drink some meat soup and eat some pancakes, and try to recover some strength. The continuous high-intensity combat requires unimaginable physical exertion. As it concerns life and death, Xia Hao spared no expense in providing food and other supplies, fully mobilizing his forces as much as possible, and striving for victory in this battle. Above the city wall, the rebel soldiers defended while resting, recovering their strength, and preparing for the next battle. Outside the city walls, the attacking enemy is also urgently considering countermeasures. New books for collection and follow. Up. Feel free to provide feedback in the comments section. End of this chapter. Chapter 10. Xia Hao's Knife Technique. You are listening at Novel Full. Audio. Chapter 10. Xia Hao's Knife Technique. General Hua, your judgment is correct. There are indeed 7th-grade warriors sitting in the rebel army. What should we do now? The silver-armored youth had a dull expression and had just organized the battlefield. The 2-hour siege had already yielded results. The number of armored warriors who attack 1,000 cities exceeds 200, the number of those who lose combat effectiveness due to serious injuries reaches 150, and the number of those who withdraw from combat due to minor injuries is also around 100. In order to capture a small city in Yuzhong, the battle damage reached 450, almost half of it, and all of them were armored warriors. Such a heavy loss made his heart bleed. These armies are the capital for him to achieve remarkable military achievements. He is also preparing to take them to the land of Liangzhou, suppress rebellions in various places, and establish immortal military achievements. Although we suffered heavy losses, the rebels were also not comfortable. The brave won when we met on a narrow path. I decided to personally lead the team and deploy 1,000 reserve troops to attack the city. We must win this victory with the momentum of burning the boat. The voice of the silver-armored boy was resolute. With his inner pride, he would never allow himself to retreat in front of this small Yuzhong city. Especially, there is another reason. He looked at Xia Hao's still slightly immature face above the city wall of Yuzhong and murmured to himself. At such a young age, reaching the 7th grade realm, if you grow up, it will definitely be a major concern and you won't be able to stay. Notify all armies to prepare and in 15 minutes, fully attack the city. Above the city wall, 800 newly recruited soldiers trembled as they looked at the scattered broken arms and corpses. The bright red blood is slowly flowing down the wall, filled with an endless smell of blood. The cruel era of cold weapons made the battlefield even more bloody. Xia Hao drank 3 large bowls of meat soup, ate 4 more pancakes, regained some strength, and watched as the newly recruited soldiers were carrying combat supplies such as stones and arrows. Suddenly, he came to 2 new recruits who were cheating, playing tricks, and whispering with his red tassel sword in hand. Without saying a word, he waved his sword and, with 2 strikes, he beheaded the 2 men. This scene made all the other recruits hesitate and show a frightened expression. Even the veteran who was recuperating and recovering his strength looked at Xia Hao with shocked eyes. Everyone is waiting for his explanation. Xia Hao's gaze was cold and serious, staring at the other recruits and shouting loudly. Since you have joined the rebel army, don't be fickle and want to be a traitor. Don't work without effort, cheat or play tricks. Put away your guard, otherwise, the 2 of them will be your fate. After Xia Hao finished speaking, the other recruits and veterans suddenly understood why they would take action. Some of them also heard the low voices of the 2 who had just died, and could see that they were slacking off and wasting time. However, it was unexpected that Xia Hao would be so ruthless and directly kill the 2. Xia Hao's gaze swept across the entire scene, especially on the faces of some new recruits, making a silent warning. Be sharp in your movements, raise your soldiers for 1,000 days, and use them for a while. Although you haven't trained long, you can transport materials. If there are any more people who cheat or play tricks, they will be executed immediately. For the new recruits, Xia Hao does not believe that they have all surrendered. Even though he has the training methods of future generations and also does some ideological work, it is impossible to convince everyone. Especially, some of the new recruits, even with Xia Hao and the rebels, still have some life and death grudges. The rebels have only occupied Yuzhong City for more than 10 days, but the county town has been washed twice. The 3 major families of Wu, Zhou, and others have been entrenched in Yuzhong City for over 100 years, with complex and intricate relationships. They have a grudge against the rebels, which is nothing but normal. They just joined the rebel army to make a living, to fill their stomachs, and to endure humiliation and humiliation. Seeing the official army attacking outside the city, I couldn't help but feel a bit cautious. Zibu Zhongbing, I seem to have completely integrated into this world, Xia Hao thought to himself. The high-intensity battle and killing, with over 100 souls killed by the knife, made his blood even colder. General, look! The enemy is starting to attack the city again, shouted the soldier standing guard. Xia Hao quickly looked out of the city and saw the sound of drums and crowds of soldiers rushing towards the outskirts of Yuzhong City, carrying siege equipment such as ladders. Get up quickly, get ready, and continue the battle. Xia Hao shouted, patrolling the various battlements on the city wall and shouting out the resting rebels. The enemy used the same tactics as before, with arrows raining down on the city walls as long-range support for the attacking infantry. Then, an enemy named set up a ladder and began to climb the city wall. Smash with stones, defend with shields, shoot with bows and arrows. In the challenging environment of Yuzhong City, Xia Hao could only take these measures to cope with it. Since ancient times, siege warfare has been extremely brutal and lasted for a very long time. The battle continues to erupt. The enemy army seemed fearless of death, with high morale, roaring as they climbed up the ladder in the city wall, only to be killed by the rebel soldiers. Occasionally, there were enemy soldiers who were introduced, and the rebels found it difficult to deal with them. Xia Hao quickly appeared and waved his sword, killing them. Soon, due to physical exhaustion and subsequent weakness, the defending rebels gradually became no match for the enemy and could only rely on their superior position to continue the battle. And more enemy troops are climbing the city walls. If this continues, Yuzhong City will eventually be occupied. General, there are too many enemies, we can't hold on anymore. Wang Tai and Zhou Feng shouted with blood all over their bodies, wounds everywhere, and the fight was extremely brutal. Although they are 8th grade warriors, there are also many 8th grade warriors in the official army of Dejin. They are difficult to defeat with 2 fists, and if they do not occupy the advantage of defending the city and collide head-on, the rebels will be easily crushed and killed. Keep persevering, I'm here. Xia Hao replied, waving his sword repeatedly as if tirelessly, killing the enemy who had rushed up the city wall. Soon, this group of people who climbed onto the city wall were once again purged by Xia Hao and many defending rebels. Suddenly, a young man in silver armor, tall in stature, with sword eyebrows and starry eyes, held a dark golden spear, jumped up more than a foot, jumped into the city wall, and with a single shot, pierced the 8th grade warrior Zhou Feng's throat. Xia Hao also saw this scene and roared wildly. Uncle Zhou. Zhou Feng, one of the 4 8th grade warriors of the rebel army, was also a brother who followed Xia Wuwei along the way. But now, with just one shot, the other party is doomed to death. Xia Hao stared closely at the young man in silver armor and shouted. I'm going to kill you. After finishing speaking, he swung his sword and charged directly towards the silver-armored boy, the fierce collision between the red tassel sword and the dark golden color. With a tingling sensation from the tiger's mouth, Xia Hao's heart suddenly surged. He is also a 7th grade warrior. The silver armor youth didn't know what Xia Hao was thinking, but waved his spear and stabbed him like Xia Hao, shouting, "Die for me." Good day, if I kill you, the enemy will inevitably collapse and the danger of Yuzhong City will be resolved. Xia Hao also bullied himself, waving his sword and fighting against him. 1 inch long, 1 inch strong. The opponent's marksmanship was extremely exquisite, and Xia Hao felt that the two had similar strength, evenly matched, and each had their own advantages. Knives and guns intertwined, and the battle erupted rapidly. The sound of the collision of gold and silver created a circle of several meters around, making it difficult for anyone approaching, whether it was the official army or the rebel army, to escape death. Li Xing was soaked in blood all over, his gaze filled with killing intent. Without Xia Hao's support everywhere, the rebel army showed a clear disadvantage. If Xia Hao cannot defeat the enemy quickly, then this battle will be a disastrous defeat. New books are for collection and follow. Up. Please feel free to provide valuable feedback in the comments section. End of this chapter.